A new investigation from our Scripps News partners ProPublica takes a deep look into the working conditions in some U.S. marijuana farms.
ProPublica found harsh and abusive conditions for some workers. ProPublica has been investigating the conditions tens of thousands of Chinese immigrants endure at these sites with a focus in Oklahoma. Their reporting stems from previous reports that Chinese mafias, some with suspected ties to the Chinese government, have taken advantage of state-level legalization to become prominent in the marijuana black market in the U.S.
ProPublica is reporting raids and investigations at more than 1,000 farms in Oklahoma over the past 5 years resulted in law enforcement finding abusive practices. That included bosses threatening and beating workers, sexually assaulting them, stealing their wages, and even confiscating their IDs. While the investigation focuses mostly in Oklahoma, this is an issue many migrants face nationwide. Sebastian Rotella joins us now. He's a reporter for ProPublica and the author of this story. Sebastian, this story touches on so many topics. We're talking weed, crime, immigration, human trafficking. But we want to start with this. How is it that Chinese organized crime has taken over parts of our nation's booming marijuana industry?
Thank you. It's a pleasure to talk to you. Chinese organized crime in the past decade really quietly but very aggressively and effectively asserted itself as a dominant player in the drug underworld, laundering money for the Mexican cartels that traffic in cocaine and fentanyl and other drugs. But what it also did was, partly using all that cash that came out of the laundering, was invest in and get involved in the cannabis industry across the country as many states legalized or passed medical marijuana laws and really moved in with great organization and precision and stealth to play a dominant role in the marijuana underworld and make just huge amounts, billions and billions of dollars in the marijuana black market, taking advantage of the fact that there was a facade of legality in places like California and Oklahoma and Colorado, but that you could make enormous amounts of money trafficking that marijuana illegally on the East Coast and in other states. So it's really become this dominant and very aggressive player.
This reporting is really shocking, especially in what it reveals about some of the conditions that these workers are experiencing. What is it about this industry that makes it ripe for abuse to take place, especially when it comes to abuse endured by Chinese immigrants?
Well, I think because you have this very strong, coordinated, nationally and internationally coordinated organized crime presence by Chinese mafias, they are interconnected with the mafias that are moving people into the United States. And you have this huge increase in Chinese immigrants coming across the Mexican border in the past 5 years. Many of those people have either found their way to jobs in the cannabis industry or been brought to the United States with the express purpose of working in that industry. And, they are vulnerable in so many ways. They're out there on these farms. You have sometimes people who don't know exactly where they are. They might know they're in Oklahoma, but not more than that. Often they are held against their will. Sometimes they have to work off smuggling debts. There's a rampant physical abuse, bad conditions, dangerous heat that they have to work in, systematic ripoffs of wages. They don't get paid or the wages get stolen. So you just have an infrastructure set up that is so dominated by criminality and happening in the shadows that folks who are recent immigrants, many of them, in the gray area of legality, are flocking to these jobs with the promise that they're going to pay well and can even invest some of their hard-won savings as immigrants, and finding this brutal reality, which can be, very painful and sometimes even deadly.
And they feel so trapped, of course, because of, their IDs being confiscated in many of these cases. And on top of that, the lack of, knowledge when it comes to the English language and being able to communicate and advocate for oneself, even if they were able to, escape the farm, if you will. What are some of the circumstances leading to the exploitation of Chinese immigrants here? And what kind of treatment are they finding as workers at these weed grows?
Well, we found, a whole range of different kinds of problems. You have, in general, it's hard work, long hours, little time off. Often the conditions are squalid and unsafe, whether fire hazards or hygienic problems. People who have to work, say 15 hours a day in these extremely hot greenhouses where there's also use of chemicals and banned pesticides. and other substances that can be noxious to their health. And then in some cases, as I was saying, you have people who are actually held in these places against their will, and find that, and they're told they're expecting to get paid, and they're told, well, the harvest wasn't big enough, so we'll have to pay you later. And they end up, pretty much stuck there. So you have conditions that range from, not being comfortable and not being healthy and not being safe, to things like sexual abuse, to things like beatings, to being threatened with weapons, to being held in what sometimes amount to conditions that resemble modern-day slavery.
ProPublica reporter Sebastian Rotella. Sebastian, thank you so much for coming on tonight and sharing your reporting with us.
It's my pleasure. Thank you very much.